It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. What are the 5 keys to being an exceptional product owner? Let me tell you, out of all the roles in the Agile workspace, product ownership is by far the most difficult one. So I thought I'd put together a top 5 list of some things that you might want to do to be exceptional in the product owner or product manager workspace. So coming in right at the top, number 1 is mastering human skills. So these are things that are most people call these soft skills or the intangibles or bedside manner, right? So these are things that you learn from life experiences, putting in the reps, working out the muscles, making sure things are happening. And I think if you wanted to summarize, well, what does that include? What kind of things would be in that category? How about expressing empathy and emotional intelligence, being self aware, having a growth mindset, asking powerful open ended questions, being creative, and making sure that you're a divergent thinker and not a convergent thinker all the time. You're self driven, a quick learner, being adaptable, a critical thinker, showing grit, being able to persevere in hard times, but also being calm and focused under stress. Under stress. I think that if you start thinking in terms of how you serve others and what you do, and you act with morality and ethicality, then you're going to be in a place to be a really, really good product owner. It's interesting because a lot of people don't put into consideration the soft skills or the soft side, and I think that that's almost as important, if not more important, than the actual execution side. It helps you have a north star. It helps everyone know exactly what direction you're trying to pull your product or service. Coming in at number 2, or what I call the fundamental skills. Now, these are things like being a good problem finder, being able to piece together the tiles of the puzzle and assemble exactly what's going on, being good at time management and understanding that you're not only making conscious decisions about how your product is being built, but you're also making conscious decisions about how you use your time and giving yourself the ability to say no, that you're not going to take on additional work if you just aren't at a place where you can. The product owners also got to practice being a researcher, right? That's a fundamental skill. They need to know how to ask the right questions, consolidate information, organize, and get pieces of the puzzle together so that they're delivering things of high value. They need to be a data analyst where they understand why what they have is important, or how was this statistic measured, or what does this really mean. And I think you need to ask those powerful questions and become the curious explorer. This person also needs to be a problem framer. So sometimes we look at the scrum master and think the scrum master is the one who solves all the problems, but I think it's just so important for the product owner to also be able to ask the powerful questions to figure out what's going on, and have guardrails in place to make sure that they're doing things effectively and clearly, and that everyone's on the same page as they are. Next is the risk assessor. They need to be able to assess risks, understand risks tangibly, and understand and make decisions based on the risk that they find. They need to be an entrepreneur. I know it sounds crazy, but even in an internal organization, I think that the skills of an entrepreneur go a long way towards product ownership. They need to be a problem preventer instead of a problem introducer. That's the easiest way for me to explain it, right? I see all the time where product owners are introducing new problems into the organization instead of focusing on the problems that they have and outlining ways to prevent those problems. So you need to make sure that you're doing retrospectives and make sure you're not making the same mistake again and again. Of course, you need to be reflective and understanding, and really acknowledge and see what's happening around you. You have to maintain self control and know when to push, when to pull, and when to get the heck out of the way, right? But I think the big thing is product owner is all about having some subject matter expertise. And these fundamental skills are things that make the job so difficult, right? When you're talking about all those different things, wow, that's a lot. And that all falls under fundamental skills. Now, in addition to fundamental skills, number 3 on my list is team and organizational skills. No matter how good the other 2 sets of skills are, no matter how deep your subject matter expertise, unless you really understand how to work with teams, you're not scratching the surface of the full potential you can get, right? So it's about managing team expectations and cultivating information synthesis and aligning efficient communication between a team and the stakeholders, the ability to speak all the different languages. And I'm not talking about English, Spanish, French. I'm talking about to the leadership team, to the executive team, to the designers, to the developers, learning those languages and being able to communicate on a level where they understand you. Being a masterful storyteller so that you can convey the information that you're trying to convey in a way that's easy for them to consume. Being a great collaborator and knowing how to facilitate discussions and brainstorm and do all those things. Also, you need to be really good at team building. So you need to be able to hire and build an effective team from the ground up if necessary. And then once you have those teams in place, you need to get alignment across the teams and have them understand how to best work with each other and how to best understand leadership and being able to paint a picture for leadership of what it looks like and have a North Star. You need to be humble enough to ask for help and be a powerful listener. You need to ask for alternate perspectives. Hey, I'm in like this, but what do you think? What do you bring to the table? What am I missing here? Is there a better way to do things? Those are the things that really make a difference. And then once you get that feedback from others and others put in their contributions, it's important for you to follow up and to really recognize the contributions of others, both individually with them and then acknowledge them publicly. Celebrate success, right? I tell people all the time celebrating success is a big deal, and it's something that we don't do enough of. All right, coming at number four is actual product skills. So these are the skills that most organizations tend to focus on. But I don't think they're necessarily the most important. I think that these are just skills that people recognize because they're the easiest to measure, right? So your ability to problem find and frame up what the problem is, deciding why something needs to be built, what problem is it trying to solve, right? The concept of understanding product discovery, where you're deciding what to build and how it's going to meet the needs of our end consumer or solve a problem. True product execution, deciding how it's going to be built and what purpose it's going to serve. Product processes, figuring out the most efficient way to work together to build it as a team and as an organization. How to work with other product managers, designers, engineers, and other key stakeholders in different job functions and understand what they do and understand those clear delineations of roles and responsibilities. That's part of the 12-step program. Find best ways to measure success. Make sure you have in place a product vision and strategy and the pillars for what you're trying to do. Have an effective roadmap in place and prioritize and make sure you have everything easy and clear to understand. Make sure you're focused on writing good, strong backlog items or stories, that you have clear requirements and specifications, that you're defining scope in a way that makes sense, that you're creating a competitive landscape, that your understanding of product pricing and marketing goes a long way, that you have a pure go to market strategy. I think you get where I'm going with this, right? Everything from conducting user interviews to UX design to the voice of the customer to user research to user experience to usability testing. There's just tons of things that fall into this execution, if you will, of product skills. And that's the part that's most recognizable. When you think of product owner, those are the things you think of. Now, number five is a special circumstance. It only comes into play when you're working on a technical product or project. And these are technical skills. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you know everything. Sometimes you're developing relationships one on one with technical leads and design leads so you can better understand what they're trying to do. Or you're really trying to piece together the architecture and understand how things fit together. Or you're meeting and discussing design principles, development principles, and what does the release process look like to make sure you have end to end understanding of what's happening with regard to the product or project. You also want to have an understanding of how to translate across all those different languages we were discussing earlier. And you want to be able to articulate the impacts of what's going to happen and what it means if we lack something or what it means if we have something that's going to be interrupt driven. You also need to be able to articulate risks and make sure people understand, hey, we can do B, but to do B, we're sacrificing something in A or whatever the case may be. You need to be able to clearly articulate those risks. You need to know which questions to ask when. This is interesting. So if you know which questions to ask, who you're asking based on who you're asking a question to, how they're going to perceive it, and when it needs to be asked so that you can resolve potential issues before they even arise. That's the power of a strong product owner or product manager. You also want to bring technical leads or technical analysts into the discussion early and frequently so that they can provide you information. And of course, the final concluding thought is the one that I should have started with. None of anything that I said will work if you don't manage and account for technical debt. If you have technical debt that's outstanding, you need to make sure that you take care of that debt. Hold a 2 week debt sprint and dedicate everyone's unbiased attention to that debt and get that debt accomplished. And what I can tell you is if you follow these practices and principles, it's going to make your agile implementation that much easier. And it's going to make people look at you and say, that is an exceptional product owner. There you have it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, we encourage you, if you have a topic you want us to discuss, let us know at learnmore@agiledad.com. We'd love to learn more about your topic and have a discussion about it. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.